Imagine you have been working on yourself for years. You meditate, you read, you grow, you become calmer, more aware, more present. And then something happens. A phone call, an argument, an old memory, and suddenly you are right back where you were years ago. Angry, hurt, overwhelmed. And you think, how is this possible? I have been doing the work. Maybe you know that feeling. Maybe it happened yesterday, or last month, or a year ago, and you still think about it. It has a name. And today, we are going to talk about it. By the end of this episode, you are going to receive one single question. Just one. But that question has the power to give you more clarity than 5 years of meditation. Not because it is complicated, but because most people avoid it their entire lives. Diane is 51 years old. She is an elementary school teacher from Nashville, Tennessee. Married, 2 grown kids. Diane had been meditating for years, every single day. She talked about peace, about gratitude, about letting go. Her colleagues always said, "Diane is so calm, so balanced." And then her mother called. 10 minutes later, Diane was in tears, angry, exhausted. And then came the thought that changed everything. If I have come this far, why does this still feel exactly like this? Today, we are talking about exactly that. About something the spiritual world does not like to talk about. And by the end of this episode, you will not just know what the problem is. You will know what you can do about it. Today. Welcome to Spirita Vivo. I am glad you are here. Imagine you have a toothache, a bad one, for weeks. But instead of going to the dentist, you just take more painkillers. You sleep better. You function again. You tell yourself, I am fine. But the tooth, it keeps rotting. Now imagine the same thing happening in other areas of life, like spirituality. We meditate. We write gratitude lists. We tell ourselves, I am letting go. I have forgiven. I am at peace. And we feel better. We really do. But the actual issue, the old wound, the anger we never really allowed, the grief we never fully felt, it is still there, deep down, untouched. That is what is known as spiritual bypassing. Bypass. We know that word from medicine, a detour, a way around the problem. Spiritual bypassing means we use spiritual practices to avoid uncomfortable feelings, not to heal them, but to not have to feel them at all. And the tricky part, it feels right. It feels almost sacred. The term comes from psychologist John Welwood. Back in the 1980s, he noticed something in many long-term meditators. People who had practiced mindfulness for years and still got stuck in the same patterns, the same relationship problems, the same fears, the same inner conflicts. They had the tools, but they were using those tools to avoid looking. Tom is 56 years old, financial advisor from Denver, Colorado. Divorced, 1 son, 24 years old. Tom had been through a painful divorce, 3 years of hurt, blame, and exhaustion. Then he discovered spirituality, and it really helped him. He meditated every morning for 20 minutes. He read books about inner peace. He listened to podcasts, maybe even this one. Slowly, he became calmer, kinder. He started saying things like, I have forgiven her. I have let it go. It was all a learning experience. His friends were impressed. But whenever someone mentioned his ex-wife's name, Tom went quiet. He changed the subject, or smiled a little too fast. He had not forgiven her. He had buried the pain under a layer of spirituality. And because that layer felt so good, he had stopped digging. That is not failure. That is human. But it matters that we recognize it, because as long as we walk around the pain, it cannot dissolve. I want to stop here for just a moment. Think about one area in your life that has not really changed, despite everything. A relationship that keeps showing the same pattern. An old feeling that keeps coming back. A situation where you say, I have already let that go, but it still feels heavy. Just notice, no judgment. We will come back to this in a moment. Spiritual bypassing shows up in many ways, but there are three that come up again and again. The first mask, the spiritual smile. You know these people. Maybe you know this feeling yourself. No matter what happens, they stay calm. They smile. They say, everything is fine. The universe has a plan. Sometimes that is true. Real inner peace is possible. Real acceptance too. But sometimes that smile is armor. A way of not showing what is really going on underneath. Ask yourself this. When someone asks how I am doing, do I answer honestly? Or do I answer the way a spiritual person is supposed to answer? The second mask, the quick forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful spiritual acts there is. Truly. But real forgiveness takes time. It takes honesty. It often takes pain. When someone says, I forgave immediately, I am completely over it, especially after a deep wound, it is worth looking a little closer. Did we really forgive? Or did we close the chapter before we actually read it? Real forgiveness sometimes sounds like this. I am not there yet. It still hurts, but I am willing to move in that direction. That takes more courage than a quick, I forgive. The third mask, spiritual superiority. This one is the most subtle. It is the quiet feeling of, I have understood something others have not seen yet. My vibration is higher. I am further along. And maybe that is even true in some areas. But real spiritual maturity does not make you proud. It makes you humble. The deeper you truly go, the more you realize how much is still there. If you recognize yourself in one of these three masks, good. That is not criticism. That is awareness. And awareness is always the first step. Now comes the question a lot of people do not want to hear. What is the alternative? The alternative is not self-punishment, not endless rumination, not picking yourself apart. The alternative is simply looking. Imagine you have a basement full of old boxes. For years, you have just kept the door shut. The basement exists, but you never go in. Eventually, you start to smell it right through the door. Spiritual bypassing is putting scented candles in front of that door. Real spiritual work is opening the door, shining a light in, looking at one box at a time, not everything at once. But honestly, that sounds scary, and sometimes it is. But here is the truth I keep coming back to. What we avoid grows stronger. What we look at loses its power. Diane did not meditate after that phone call with her mother. She sat down and she cried. Not for 10 minutes. Longer. Not because she was weak, but because she was finally strong enough to look. And in that crying, the exhaustion was gone. Something else was there instead. Relief. An hour later, she called her mother back, not with perfect peace, but with real honesty. Mom, I think we actually need to talk. And that was her first real step. I want to say something important here. Spiritual practices are not the problem. Meditation is beautiful. Gratitude rewires the brain. Mindfulness is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. The problem is not the tool. The problem is what we use it for. A hammer is a good tool. But if you try to use it to drive in a screw, it will not work. Spiritual practices are meant to lead us deeper into ourselves, not to protect us from ourselves. The difference is subtle, but it matters. Meditation that helps us feel more deeply. That is growth. Meditation we use so we do not have to feel anything. That is bypassing. Ask yourself honestly, am I using my spiritual practice to open up or to protect myself? Both answers are okay. It is just about being honest. Now we have arrived at what I promised you at the beginning. The one question. Right after this episode, give yourself 5 minutes. Sit down somewhere quiet. No phone, no screen, just you. Grab a pen and a piece of paper, or open the notes on your phone and write down this question. What feeling am I avoiding right now and calling it spiritual growth? Write down whatever comes up first. Do not think too hard. Do not edit yourself. Do not try to make it sound good. Just the first honest word, or the first honest sentence. Then read it back and just sit with it. You do not need to fix anything. You do not need to change anything. Just look. That is enough. That is more than enough. Because right there, where there is something to see, that is where real transformation begins. Not in the silence of a perfect meditation, but in the moment when we are honest enough to open the door. Spirituality is not a shield. It is an invitation. An invitation to look deeper, to be more honest with yourself. That is uncomfortable. Sometimes is even painful. But on the other side of that pain, there is no more fear waiting. There is freedom. Real freedom. Not the numbed out version, the alive kind. This is Spirita Vivo. If this episode moves something in you, share it. There might be someone in your life who needs to hear this right now. Until next time, live lightly.